Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield. Together, we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit. A new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Hovels Sewing. Cut it close with Hovels. Moda. Make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb. Manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA. Hi, you're watching Quilty. Welcome to Quilty. I'm Mary Fons, and today, wow, there's a lot of stuff out here. Why? Because we are talking about scrap quilts. We're talking about crazy scrap quilts that are stash busters that help you get a quilt out of nothing, out of the scraps that you have in your stash, and maybe even extra blocks that you have left over from a project where you made one extra block or you did a sample block in another colorway, and it was great, but then you decided to go with a different color, so you have this great block, whatever. So scrap quilts are my favorite kinds of quilts, I have to say. I love all the colors, I love all the different patches. I think every piece in a scrap quilt is really interesting because often it's the only piece like it in the quilt. So there's like this originality about it. So I'm gonna take you through a few tips for doing scrap quilts and show you a very, very, very easy way to get something out of nothing, basically. Okay, so here are a few churn dash blocks. I make a churn dash quilt, I think, like once a year. I love this block. I'm a little obsessed with it. So, throughout my churn dash making days, you amass some blocks. That's not a churn dash. You amass some blocks that you use or you don't use, and keep them around. I mean, you're not going to throw this away, are you? No, I hope not. You could turn it into a pot holder. You could do that. You could do all kinds of things with it. You could make it into a pillow. But I tend to do more big quilts than small quilts or small projects. So I have these kinds of things. Okay, well, if you're making a scrap quilt, you certainly don't have to be limited to one block, right? You can make a scrap quilt out of lots of blocks, and then that is technically called a sampler quilt. So this was a strip pieced quilt that I did. And this size is the same size as that block, as that churn dash. So I could, this is getting nutty, color wise, but I could turn this whole, just with extra blocks that I have in my stash, I could turn this into a quilt. I could just start sewing pieces together, and it would be a little nuts, but it would also be kind of a memory quilt because it would show all these quilts that I've made, in the past. This is an old, it's getting kind of beat up, quilty show. We did a quilty show on this block, and I still have that around. Now that's a different size. I would need to figure out, how to make up the size, and maybe I wouldn't use it. Maybe I'd save it for another day when I have this size of a block left over. But here's one of the first tips. This is very cool. This is a little measuring tape. Literally, it is tape. And what I do sometimes, if I've got all these blocks and I'm trying to figure out what size I need, whatever, for easy reference, right on my table, I will make a little tape. I will put some tape down that shows me the size of the block I'm working with. So I don't have to measure. I can just eyeball it very, very quickly. So this is it's an 8.5 inch block that will finish 8 inches. So if I need to just eyeball a block as I'm going through my block stash or I'm going through, what I have already, I can just cut this off to 8.5, roughly. And then, I can just place it. Yep, that's what I need, And so, because if you have a 7.5 inch block, it will not fit the tape. This is just a very easy guide for you to measure your block. So I like that. That's good to have. Okay, so same goes for quilt backs. This was a back that I had on a lap quilt that I decided to change. I didn't want all the blue on the back. I wanted it to lighten it up. So I have a quilt back. And I can either add to this quilt back if I need to make it bigger, or I can cut it down. This is a back that's just in my stash. It's a UFO, the unfinished object. We have a little joke, the quilters do. It's an unfinished object, but you can actually make those into scrap quilts, and those are that churn dash block is very easy. If you need to make more of them, it's easy to do. But even easier than that is a little bit of applique. Okay, so there's a really great publication called Quilting Quickly, and it's a Fons Importer publication, and it is excellent for doing really, really, really fast quilts. I mean, the magazine's called Quilting Quickly, right? So there is this product, which I like very much. It's fabric fuse, and it's sort of like monkey proof. There are these sheets of fusible. They come in between paper, so you throw the brown paper away, and you cut it to the size you want, the shapes you want. I cut a few hearts to show you. And you can use, I actually didn't worry too much about using these scissors to cut this product because it's backed with paper, and the glue that's in between the two sheets of paper is so thin. I thought it was okay. So you cut out the shape that you want, like so. Okay. This is very strong glue that's in between these pieces of paper. So brown goes away. And the glue is, there's a sheet here and a sheet there. There's two sheets stuck together, and you will peel off both, and I'll show you how. So when you have little charm squares like this, candy, they call it sometimes, candy, you can truly glue them on with this product. You don't have to stitch them down. I used a decorative stitch here to finish this little guy. I didn't on this, and this is raw edge applique, you could call it, and this is not gonna go anywhere. I won't wash it 1,000 bazillion times necessarily, you know, but it's very, very strong. So here's what I did. Here's how I did it. When you're using fusibles, you always have to pre-wash your fabric. Don't forget it. And don't use fabric softeners, okay, because it changes the nature of the fabric. So the square that I've cut out to put behind this is a little bit big. I don't want any overhang, so I'm going to cut this down. Perfect, actually, hang on. Okay, so then I peel back a piece of the paper, one side of it, comes off pretty easily. Okay, and I can see the glue is on that side. So, I mean, this is like, do you remember stickers when you were a kid? That's what this is. Okay, place this on. And I would trim, you don't want any overhang, okay? Because it's very sticky, okay? So there's still paper on the back, okay? Then you peel off the paper from the back, and once the glue is off, once the paper is off, the glue is there, and place it here. Touch it with the iron, and you're good to go. That's pretty nice. Then you take it over here, do a little decorative stitching if you want. You know, play with your machine a little bit. Your machine can do all kinds of cool stitches. I'm gonna grab that tail away, pull it back. So I just played around, I looked at my manual, I found a stitch that I thought was kind of cool. It's just kind of a thicker stitch. Do needle down, pivot. There you go. And then just follow your charm squares around, and you can have a block that quickly. So I think you should try some different threads. You should try some different threads on your scrap quilt. It's a great place to practice. If you've never used variegated thread before, if you want to try something new, a different thread weight, do that too. So basically the lesson today is make a scrap quilt as a chance to play. Just play around. Play around with what you've got, play around with new things you want to try. You will have a quilt when you finish, and it might look a little Frankenstein, but that's okay. It's still gonna keep somebody warm. So thanks for watching Quilty, and send us pictures, join us on the blog, all that good stuff. Thanks.
Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield. Together, we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit, a new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Hovels Sewing, cut it close with Hovels. Moda, make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb, manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA.